Ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch Podcast, brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap, here, of course, with the Trashman, and it's waiver day, Week 6 waivers, Trashman. Are you pumped?
Bursting at the seams.
It's an interesting week, a little bit better this week than it was. I don't know if you can call it better, man, just with the state of
I mean, better in one situation, I would say. One position.
Yeah, well, for sure. Just a quick thing before we get started. I've been told I need to start doing this again. If you're listening to the podcast, please, and if you're listening to the podcast and you like the podcasts and stuff, we have so many thousands of you listening, and I think on Spotify we still only have like less than 100 reviews. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, if you could rate the podcast and review it, we would certainly appreciate it. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if you could like the video, click subscribe. All that means a lot to us, and it's a great way to show support for the epic YouTube and podcast performance here. So if you get that done, it's super easy. It's actually free to click like. It's free, so go ahead and get that done. Even Trashman can afford it.
I was going to say, even a Trashman can get behind it.
Okay. All right. So the injury situations that clearly everybody knows about. The whole thing with Devon Achane, all of a sudden now we're kind of having to monitor that situation with the Miami Dolphins just as quick as he comes into our lives and becomes basically a top 5 fantasy running back on such little volume. Now it's a need that they're going to be monitoring.
I mean, you have these small players; those are the risks that they run.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, it's Achane giveth and Achane taketh away, man, as far as the fantasy points. He'll be back, he'll be back soon. Still don't know the exact amount of time that he's set to miss. It probably is not going to be that big a deal for most people because quarterback streaming is a lot easier than streaming running back or wide receiver, but we do have the Anthony Richardson stuff. If you lost him, it's looking like it's probably going to be something where I don't feel like they're going to rush him back. They're getting a second opinion and a third opinion on that shoulder, but it could be he ends up on IR. James Conner gets hurt. Now we have a situation where he's set to miss multiple weeks. The players behind him are terrible, to even be kind about it. They're not very good. But I mean, if you lost any of these guys, you know what I mean? If you lost any of these guys, you're going to be in a spot to where you really need to think about this stuff. Khalil Herbert it looks like he's going to miss multiple weeks with the high ankle sprain. And we know that running backs, once they come back from high ankle sprains, are usually just complete shells of themselves, at least for a few weeks. And being a shell of what Khalil Herbert was to start this season is something that I'm not particularly interested in. So there's big implications there with the Bears backfield, as we'll talk about. Other situations that we'll just kind of keep in mind is, Miles Sanders, how bad he's been looking with Carolina. I know that he's not out, he's not injured, but there is a sort of a Chuba Hubbard trend there that we need to keep our eyes on. Chuba Hubbard once again on the cheat sheet. But at the very top of the waiver wire cheat sheet this week is the guy that's been on the top the whole time. We've been telling you, make sure you pick up Roschon Johnson. The issue with Roschon Johnson is, for the Bears going into this week, they're playing. They're going to be playing at home versus Minnesota. Roschon Johnson left last week's game though with a concussion, so he's in the concussion protocol. The good news about that is, as far as the timing, usually nowadays in the NFL, unless I think once we've seen it this year with a guy getting out of concussion protocol the same week. I forget who it was. But I thought that it was a little bit odd. The one time that we saw that happen this year, the general deal is you're going to take off 1 week. But with Roschon, it happened on Thursday, right? That was a Thursday night game. It was the DJ Moore explosion game. That was a Thursday night. So he's had the extra Friday, Saturday. He's had the extra three days. That can go a long way as far as this protocol. Because generally you're just coming right down to the wire on Saturday, and teams are generally kind of hesitant to rush these guys back on that Saturday when they have to make the call. So I think with Roschon Johnson, if you're talking about making the call by next Thursday or something like that, to where he could get in a limited practice on Friday in a spot where they really need him. Yeah, maybe that's it. Was it Gus Edwards? I think that maybe there was somebody else too, because I don't think it was Gus Edwards that I was thinking of. But thank you for bringing that up, Brian C. Was it like a tight end, like a rookie tight end, like Luke Musgrave or something? I forget who it was. Regardless, Roschon Johnson back at the top of the cheat sheet, and here's why. You've been needing to get him the whole time. If you use the RosterWatch cheat sheets, you drafted him in the 12th or 13th round, and hopefully you've held, because what's going to happen now is he's going to just take over the job. And so just if he's out there, make sure you get him. He's your top priority, because these other guys that we're going to talk about, these dudes like, people will go out there talking about Jeff Wilson this week, and we'll continue to talk about how now, say, Antonio Gibson has fallen to where I couldn't believe it. Antonio Gibson's only owned in 49% of leagues. He actually had a little bit of a decent week last week. Some people will maybe point to that as a top priority pickup. I mentioned the Jeff Wilson stuff. It just feels to me like Jeff Wilson with the Miami Dolphins is not he's not a 1-for-1 for Devon Achane, right? I think with Jeff Wilson, Trashman, and you could talk about this, just with the way that offense runs, even though they lose Achane, they still have a ton of speed all over the place. They're going to be in scoring position. Jeff Wilson is a guy who, and we're not 100% sure. It's only reports that have come out that they're going to be opening up or that they're going to have him active this week. I believe the only thing that we know for sure is that they've opened up the 21-day practice window, right? Yeah. So, I mean, with him, if you need somebody this week, I think he probably goes, but just keep in mind that we're not exactly sure that that's going to be the case, with Miami facing just an incredible matchup this week. The number 2 matchup for opposing running backs as 13.5-point favorites at home going against Carolina. There's also do you want to talk about the Arizona stuff? Do you just want to, because I know that I think that Damian Williams is somebody who they brought in, and what did they sign? They claimed Tony. I'm just getting all this mixed. Didn't they claim Tony Jones off waivers from the Saints? Let me make sure about that. But I think they did. Tony Jones waivers. Yeah, Cardinals claimed Tony Jones. So we have Tony Jones coming in there. The deal is with Emari Demercado, he's never been he's never been a super talented player, but he clearly is. Like he played 77% of snaps last week after James Conner went out of that game super early. He basically played all this. If you look at the snap counts, targets, and touches tool, James Conner played 21% of snaps. Demercado came in and played 77% of snaps. He played basically all the snaps that James Conner didn't play.
Yeah.
Now, we'll have to monitor the situation with Keontae Ingram and see if he's gonna be healthy at some point. For me, it's just he's had chance after chance after chance to be able to get something going. But they were talking about the fact, and he's been out with a neck. They've been talking about the fact that maybe he might be able to go in week 5. And that was sort of, if you're a super sicko, something that you were watching to just to see if he'd get back in there, because you think about the depth behind James Conner and maybe some of these waiver stashes that you could pick up. And it really is Demercado. It was Corey Clement. It looked really, really bad. And that's something wherever even a guy like Keontae could come in and make a little bit of a run there.
Some fava beans and a nice Keontae.
Keontae, like the wine. Yeah. Okay. Alex K is asking about Keontae Ingram. Dude, a bunch of these ex-Longhorns running backs we're talking about this week. Keontae Ingram, I guess he transferred to USC his last year. Deontay Foreman. Look, man, I mean, Deontay Foreman's been a healthy scratch because Roschon Johnson's been better. But if there's not going to be any Khalil Herbert, and if they're going to need to play Deontay Foreman this week, if Roschon can't go, he doesn't clear protocol. Like, he's going to be the lead running back.
And that's the only reason I had Amari over him initially, is just he may not go.
I think he'll go. That's the thing, man. It's Roschon Johnson. He's going to sniff this opportunity. He's going to be like, dude, I'm fine. This, and clearly it's not all up to him. It's not just up to the team. And I know Roschon's smart. And I mean, Roschon's got a 3.9 GPA from the Red McComb School of Business Management at Texas. He's a smart guy. He's not going to rush back on a head injury, but I would think that this would be something that he'd be excited to say, like, man, like, this is it. Like, this would be my big chance. This is a big opportunity for him. Again, facing Minnesota, who hasn't been, super stout against the run, hasn't been super bad. The way teams have been really hurting them is through the wide receiver position, but should be a decent scoring environment. What's the over? I guess probably not the best scoring environment. Only a 44.5 over under as we sit right now, but. Yeah, it's kind of like ML saying, it's the same thing that we've been saying. He kind of has that mini bye he's coming off of, and it feels like he'll probably be okay. Any of these guys that you'd like to, I mean, as far as the ones that are at the very top, there's those guys. Tyjae Spears just remains on the sheet. I don't know why he's not owned in more league. I'm to the point where it's like, I've been stashing him. And with the buys coming up and stuff, Trashman, I'm gonna probably be having to start to play Tyjae Spears in some of these games, and I don't hate it. I don't feel bad.
That's fair. I mean, he's getting double-digit touches.
Yeah, and dude, and he looks good. And the fact that they don't have any other, especially with Treylon Burks continuing to be out, they don't have that many other playmakers on that team. They really don't. And you hear the announcers whenever they talk about, what Tyjae Spears means to the team and all this stuff. These announcers have been there at the practice for the last 2 or 3 days in production meetings, talking with the coaching staff, all that. When you hear all this talk consistently from the different announcer crews about how much they like this guy and how they want to get him more touches and all the rest of this stuff, man, I
did just add Kyle Phillips down to the receiver list, though. That reminded me.
Why? What did
because he's activated and with Burks out, I just think he might get some more opportunities.
Yeah, well, maybe. What did he get last week? He was on 22% of snaps. Got one target. He's at the well. Thankfully, your list is very, very exhaustive, Trashman. If people use it, if you add him to the very bottom of that one, I think even in 14-team leagues, you might not get down to the bottom before you get to Kyle Phillips. All right, so we got some questions in the chat. Hello to everybody in the chat. Kip C, Brian C, great to see you guys. Kip C is asking, as a AR-15 owner, I have Watson still dated with his shoulder. Should I ride him or drop Rashee Rice or Musgrave to fill that void? I would just wait till you get more news about Watson. Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Keontae Ingram. Yeah. Okay. So we touched on Keontae Ingram. Thank you to Alex K. France, ML, Juan Garcia, Alex K. So good to see you guys. France saying Rondale Moore could get more action behind. Well, yeah, he could.
I mean, I touched on that in the fallout on Monday.
Yep. ML is saying
I agree.
Rondale was a Thursday. Sure. Yep. Thoughts on Keaton Mitchell. He's on the waiver wire cheat sheet, but he's a little bit farther down the list. Signs of life this week out of Justice Hill. He looks healthy to me. I think that, in deep leagues, I've stashed him in one league where we have like 9 bench spots. It's worth doing. I wouldn't do it in a 5 or 6 bench spot league. Kipsy asking, I think some of my teams need to be really trashy this week. Welcome to the attrition of fantasy football, man. We're just here to help each other get.
My teams have been ravaged.
Higbee and Njoku this week. I haven't done the rankings model. I haven't done rankings so far. I thought it was interesting for Higbee that the Atlanta Falcons traded for Van Jefferson this week. So not that Van Jefferson was playing much at all. That had turned into a 3 wide receiver set team of Tutu Atwell, Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua.
Yeah, but, I mean, I know Higbee suffered from Nakua's targets last week. It was he who lost targets whenever Cup came back.
Ronald Martinez, how are you doing, sir?
So
Cardinals running back, who's your favorite? Can I say none? I just say none of them. I don't like any of them right now. I mean, if you put a gun to my head and told me I had to pick one, I can't.
It had to be Amari based off of last week.
Amari's no good.
I mean, but just based off of what I mean,
he's been no good in the preseason. He was no good at TCU. I mean, I don't know, man. Feels like they're going to try and get Connor back just ASAP. But with Connor, it's like, what's the reasoning for it? What's really the reasoning for it for the Cardinals anyway? I mean, they don't need to win games right now. So maybe it is Amari DeMarcado. That's sort of the chalk pick. I would say Tony Jones, but God, I hate Tony Jones. You know, let's see.
I'd go with the guy there who's been with the offense.
Love you too, brother. I'm glad that you got Roschon for sure. Do you think Smith will continue to be the odd man out in Philly due to not complaining in the media? Well, it's an interesting take. You think that he's not getting the targets because he's just not the squeaky wheel? I don't know. Whenever A.J. Brown wants targets, he goes to the media and he tells them. Maybe Devontae Smith should do the same thing, right? Let's see. Jack Jaworski says, I play in a small roster league. I can make 2 waiver claims out of DeMarcado, Jeff Wilson, and KJ Osborne. Well, I think that would depend on what you need help with on your roster.
Needs.
Yeah, I mean, and from a pure just if I had to rank them standpoint, I think I'd add Jeff Wilson first, just because of the nature of that offense, right? Probably. I don't know. Jeff Wilson,
I think
KJ Osborne.
I think Wilson would be the last, just because we don't know for sure if he'll play this week. I mean, we know Mercado is going to get touches.
So maybe DeMarcado. Maybe. I think you're probably right about that. So, but all the guys listed in the top tier, aside from Roschon, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Would you rather have Amari DeMarcado for the rest of the season or Antonio Gibson, Trashman? I think I'd rather have Gibson.
For the rest of the season, I mean, it's just like we know he's not going to get starters touches like Mercado probably will this week. I think it depends on, like, you need him this week. Do you need
who does Arizona play this week? All right, so they're at the Rams. So actually it's not a decent total in that game. Yeah, look, man, all the ones that are in the top tier, you know, they're all, it's kind of about what you need, right? It's like, that's why we do this podcast as a supplement to the cheat sheet, because you'll see the top tier. Just the one who's at the very top is Roschon Johnson. Just make sure you have him, because not only is he gonna, if he clears concussion protocol, will he get starters work this week, but he's probably also going to win. He's already won a substantial role there. And for the last couple of weeks, it had been disappointing because the game script just hadn't really been there for the kind of stuff that he was doing as a pass catcher and as a pass protector and stuff like that. Now, when he gets the opportunity to run between the tackles, is a guy that forced as many missed tackles last year in college football as anybody else out there, including Robinson. You know, he's a good between the tackles runner. He weighs 225 pounds. He's plenty fast. I think that we're going to see him, you know, more as a pure runner, and add on the fact that everything he can do out of the backfield without the ball in his hands. The Chicago Bears and the Chicago fan base are going to end up saying, this is our best runner. So once Khalil Herbert comes back, what are you going to do to put that genie back in the bottle? Right. So when you lay it all out like that, and you talk about the kind of the level of prospect that Roschon Johnson was, things line up to definitely make him the number one waiver claim if he's still out there. He shouldn't have been out there. He's been on the cheat sheet every single week, right? But this is the last week to get him. Like this is it, right? If you don't get him now, you're not going to get him. A week like that's going to come soon with Tyjae Spears as well. A week like that soon is going to come with Kendre Miller as well. So just keep that in mind. This is the final Roschon week. So those are the guys at the very top. I think Chuba Hubbard can be mentioned there. It feels like sort of a tier below is where you start thinking about guys like Deontay Foreman, because he truly does feel like maybe just a couple weeks sort of fill in. Khalil Herbert's going to take his job back and render Deontay Foreman as a healthy scratch most weeks moving forward, simply because Deontay only plays running back. He's not like Travis Homer, who can play mainly special teams. But if you need a depth running back, he can be there too. What do you think, Trash Man?
No, I agree. Chuba Hubbard I mean, Craig Reynolds is on there in the next tier. He scored last week, but he had more than 50 yards, but he only had 7 touches and no receptions. So I think he's more of a deep league kind of flex.
Van Jefferson in Atlanta right now. Don't think that moves the needle. No, it doesn't move much of a needle. There been jokes on Twitter today saying they can't wait to see him out target Drake London. Let's see, Ronald Martinez. Take a look at the Cards game. Every time Connor was out, Moore was getting rushes. Please investigate that, and you'll see what I saw. No, I understand that. Trashman even said that he wrote it this weekend in his fantasy fallout that we could see more of that. But all that does for us, Ronald Martinez, is it makes us take into account for the projection work that we do, that those extra carries could go to a few extra carries could go to Rondale, which would certainly take away from the projection on these other players. But to me, it's like if Rondale Moore gets 3-4 carries a week, it doesn't move the needle too much as far as his overall value and his overall usage on a week-to-week basis. Lifetime Longhorn says he picked up KJ Osborne in a flyer last week, adding T. Higgins to IR. Now I need to drop someone. How did you pick him up and you have to drop somebody now? How does that work? You can retroactively drop somebody? Maybe I still don't understand how your IR designation works. Anyway, it's got to be Tutu Atwell, Jaleel McLaughlin, or Javonte Williams. You know how much I hate Javonte Williams. Well, you might hate him, but look, it's got to be Tutu. The least valuable of those players as far as a fantasy commodity is certainly Tutu Atwell. What about wide receiver, Trash Man? How did you sort these guys out? And these guys are definitely a sort of a tier below as far as what we'd be willing to spend. Roschon Johnson, you can go up to 30-40% of your original budget to go get him.
Yeah, there's none of these receivers that I'm really champing at the bit to pick up this week. Though Quentin Johnson starting, he's going to get more
champing at the bit or chomping at the bit.
It's champing.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
What does it mean to champ? Like a verb. What does that mean? Champing at the bit.
I think that's like when a horse, I don't know.
Champing at the bit versus chomping at the bit. Champing at the bit was first used to explain the imagery of a restless horse grinding its teeth against its bit, which is part of its bride, when being held under control. Fast forward to today, the expression highlights a person's impatience to get something done or get moving. So you're right. It's champing at the bit. Huh. Champing or chomping at the bit. It's kind of the same thing. I think they say both is fine. I think it's a different way of saying it's like champing or chomping. What is champing? What is champing definition?
So just let me see. Certain on that.
To chomp, to mash or to trample. So champing and chomping is the same thing. To say that you're champing at the bit just means that you're chomping at the bit.
It's probably one of these things that, in Old English was pronounced one way and then just got, I don't know, pronunciation changed over time.
Yep.
As far as receiver goes, Quentin Johnson, just as far as opportunities go and, kind of red zone potential usage, he's kind of at the top of that list for me. But KJ Osborne's right there behind him. You're not going to be able to get Jordan Addison in most leagues.
Oh God.
But
that's it. We didn't. So for people who don't know, Justin Jefferson doesn't have a timetable for his return from a hamstring injury.
Yeah. So, it's going to be Addison wheels up, but Osborne, has actually been getting more snaps than Addison.
It doesn't matter now.
It doesn't matter, but I'm just saying.
They're both in now on two.
Osborne's going to get a lot of usage. You're going to be able to use Osborne this week, really, in any format, I think.
Okay.
And then Josh Downs in Indianapolis. We know that Gardner Minshew likes Downs as a receiver.
So does Richardson.
Yeah, they both do.
He's good. So does Reggie Wayne. Loves him. He thought he was the best wide receiver in the whole draft. So hey, man, who's to say, man? It's like that guy's probably a better evaluator of wide receiver talent than I am, I would guess. But how about anything?
Curtis Samuel, who continues to get action there as kind of a safety blanket underneath option for Sam Howell.
Yeah. Ronald Martinez asking, "Hey guys, waiver wire cheat sheet is already on the site. I'm logged in. Week 5 is still there." No, it isn't. We do this show and we kind of talk it over, right? This is kind of like our last bit of quality control, but it'll be up right after the show. We're gonna send it to our web guy and he'll put this up on the site along with the waiver wire cheat sheet. You'll have it in plenty of time for waivers, brother. I'd say within half an hour. All right. What about tight end?
Tight end Logan Thomas, led the Commanders in targets this past week. Led them receiving too. He's healthy now, at least for the time being. And so while that is the case, he's somebody that you can definitely stream.
The tight ends.
Dalton Schultz, 2 straight weeks with a touchdown. He's starting to heat up there for the Texans, at least in the red zone. Jonnu Smith, he's averaging 7 targets a game. Right along there with Kyle Pitts. I mean, they're kind of interchangeable, really, but Jonnu Smith has actually been more productive. And then Tyler Conklin has actually been pretty decent there for the Jets as far as, receiving yardage since Zach Wilson has come under center for the Jets.
All right, guys, if you have questions about who you can drop to pick up any of these guys, remember, you can find the whole waiver wire cheat sheet over at rosterwatch.com, but you can put them in the chat. I have some that people have already asked about this week over on the site and on Twitter and social, etc. So here it is, Trash Man. These don't come from me. These come from the people, okay? Mm-hmm. There's some tough ones. There's one that's crazy, but I can understand why he's asking. What about lifetime Longhorn that hates Javonte Williams? You still can't even come near dropping him, right?
No,
it's idiotic. Not calling him an idiot, but saying it would be an idiotic fantasy football move to do that. Okay, so Kip C's asking about Jaden Reed. Now that Christian Watson's back,
you can drop him. I think he'll have some good days, but you can drop him.
I think I might I hate to say for a KJ Osborne or Josh Downs, but those guys.
KJ Osborne this week.
Yeah, those guys are getting those guys are just getting a lot more targets. I mean, Jaden Reed's just an unbelievably sick player, but it's been disappointing since Christian Watson's gotten better. What was his overall snap share last night? I haven't looked at it from last night yet. Let me see. Was he? So his snap share last night, golly, still at 50%. Yeah, it's just tough, man. Okay. Calvin Austin.
Yeah.
Okay. Tank Bigsby.
Yeah, you can drop him. I mean, he's a good hold if you can, but he's a good player, but I don't think you need him.
Wan'Dale Robinson.
Ugh.
I told you some are tough.
I would not drop Wan'Dale yet.
Jameson Williams.
No.
Zach Charbonnet.
You can drop him.
Tyler Algier.
No. I think Tyler Algier had more well, I think he had more touches than Bijan this past week, actually.
Ricky Murawski's asking, can you drop Kendre Miller? And my answer is you can drop Kendre Miller for Roschon Johnson, and that's about it as far as the guys that are widely available right now. Chase Claypool, now that he's a Dolphin.
Drop him, yeah. He's easily droppable.
Dalton Kincaid, who really hasn't done much.
You could drop him.
Kareem Hunt.
I'm not dropping him yet. I think that backfield.
Really?
I still think that backfield's open.
Okay. Here come the hard ones. Dak Prescott.
No.
Hadn't been that good. Go pick up Josh Dobbs or something. I mean, There were guys on the waiver wire like Goff and stuff. I mean, I don't think you need to be just married to Dak.
You don't need to be married to Dak, but I don't think you drop it. I think that offense is going to pick up. Their defense has been so good, it hasn't really had to. And then they just had this awful week against the 49ers.
I don't know how somebody can even ask this coming off the week that he just had. Maybe this is a 10-team league or shallow bench. What about Zach Moss?
33 points on my bench this past week. No, don't drop him.
Just kind of see what happens. Feels like they're going to have to play. It's like that. Feels like that team's best whenever they're playing. Zach Moss. And I know that Jonathan Taylor's got to get the rust off, but I was texting Cody during the game. I was like, dude, Zach Moss legit looks better than JT right now. As both of them just look at this at that, like on this week 5 of this year of our Lord 2023, Zach Moss looks like he's the better player. If you were an alien that came down to earth to watch the game, there'd be no doubt that you would say that.
Well, he's had the action. I'm just loving reading these comments. This chain that's
oh god, Harry Snowman in here causing trouble. Yeah. Oh gosh, notorious TBT. You say whatever this thing. I don't even know what any of this means. I think if we say these words, it might get us kicked off YouTube. Okay.
I just got back from the gym. That's why.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Zeke Elliott.
You can drop him. I mean, that whole offense is garbage right now.
These two are just. I mean, you're gonna be. Somebody asked if they can drop. They say I hate Ramondre Stevenson. I never wanted to draft him. Can I just drop him? He's been bad. I mean, really, really bad.
The offense has been bad, but I feel like they're going to lean into the run because Mac Jones has been complete garbage, especially this week. I think this might be a decent matchup for runners this week.
Would you sell low on him? I mean, if you want to drop him that bad, I would say just try and sell him.
Yeah, try to sell him. Try to trade him.
Okay, and this is the okay. So D's nuts has a question before we get out. I received Devontae Adams. You trade David Montgomery and Tutu Atwell, full PPR. I also have Kamara, CMC, James Cook. Well, Devontae Adams is the best player in the trade, so I think I would take the trade. Can we answer your earliest question? Notorious TBG. What is it? Oh, sorry. Okay, so do I pick up Josh Downs or replacement defense for the Cowboys this week? My wide receiver core: Chase, Flowers, Godwin, and Dobbs. I could just bench the Cowboys and leave defense empty. No, don't do that.
Yeah, I'm not picking up Downs over any of those guys. I mean, I'm not playing Downs over any of those guys this week.
It was hold on. Well, but why? Hold on. Why would you get a replacement defense anyway for Dallas? Just because they're playing the Chargers? I was like, wait, is Dallas on bye all of a sudden? And I forgot.
That's actually a pretty good matchup for a
good. Yeah, man, you're gonna get a ton of people. People always say if they're playing a bad team, it's a good defensive matchup. That's not true. You're gonna get a ton of dropbacks in this game, a ton of opportunities for sacks, and all kinds of haywire stuff. Just play them, and then go pick. So play them and go pick up Downs. Easy game, TBG. Easy game. All right, here we go. The hardest one, Trash Man. Somebody just asked. Miles Sanders. This must be a 10-team league, I think.
For Roshan.